Alright, so we are in the Netolic Raidcall Weekly Dota 2 Cup Americas Edition, round of 8. So this is the quarterfinals. This will be a best-of-3 series between Netolic South America and DD3+4. We have not looked at either of these teams before, but I'm ready for seeing an exciting game, a good game of Dota. The metagame has been pretty wide open recently, as we'll talk about in just a second. And these two teams are ready. They've advanced to this quarterfinal match. We're going to see them do a best-of-3 tonight, and then we'll see which one actually moves on to the semifinals, which will be played out Friday evening. I'm Vikramond. I know we haven't seen each other or heard from each other in a while, but I hope you guys enjoy the cast today. So, we're going to move right into the bans with this draft, both teams wasting no time to take out some of the heroes. Since we last sort of spoke, since we last looked at the game, there's been a bit of an opening in terms of the professional metagame. The way I would define the metagame in Dota right now is similarly to the way that some people define global geopolitics, which is that there's a core and there's a periphery. And so in the core, you have a certain set of heroes that are always banned or picked, and that particular set of heroes is essentially ubiquitous. And so when we look into the first ban phase of these drafts, we tend to see the same heroes crop up again and again. Definitely Nyx Assassin, solid member of the core set of heroes. Batrider, Darkseer, and Undying to some extent. These are core heroes. We always sort of see these heroes. Basically, at least one support, a couple mids, some solo laners. These are considered parts of the core, and 2 carries are parts of the core. So Gyrocopter and Lifestealer are your 2 core heroes that we do see. And so those are very, very rigidly defined. So in that respect, the metagame in Dota 2 right now is incredibly rigid. You always have these core heroes making an appearance, whether it be in the bans or the pick phase, and Keeper of the Light definitely falling into that sort of sphere as well. But then you have the periphery. And one thing that we've seen in the last sort of week and a half to 2 weeks or so is that the periphery has just exploded. You have every hero coming onto the scene in some respect. I actually tallied it up, and from just in the professional scene, not even going into the amateur tournaments like the one we're watching right now. In the professional scene, actually, let's turn up our game volume just a bit. So just in the professional scene from February 12th to February 19th inclusive, we had 78 heroes of the possible 91 that are in captain's mode actually getting picked up. And I mean, that's really incredible if you think about it. 78 unique heroes all make an appearance in the captain's mode on the professional level. Now, some of those were, not all of those were serious picks. So you had some joke picks. You had Spirit Breaker, for instance, getting picked up by Navi. You had, which was a purposeful troll pick. You had Bloodseeker getting picked up by No Tidehunter against Redefining Madness, also sort of a troll pick. And so those picks are not 100% serious, but other picks, you know, didn't work out, but some worked out. And so the point is that sort of periphery, you essentially have 2 slots on your team, maybe 3 that are completely defined. So you always take them. And then everything else is completely up to you, completely up to however you want to structure your team. And one thing that's interesting in this draft already, and I want to jump right into this, sort of get the macro back into the micro for a second. This Tinker pick first is definitely an example of veering a little bit off script. So Netolic.SA deciding to lead off with the Tinker, and so this is definitely like what we call a pocket strategy, in the sense that they sort of know that this works for them, they know that they want the Tinker, and so they want to define the draft by taking it. Now, picks that are surprising, like Tinker sometimes is, can be taken late. You can take the Tinker 5th, unless there's a strategic reason in terms of your drafting structure that you actually want to pick up the Tinker early. So in this case, we have to say that they almost certainly do have a reason why they want to pick up the Tinker early. They want to shape the draft with this pick, and perhaps we could see more surprising picks from Netolic.SA later in the process, thus sort of using the Tinker not necessarily as misdirection, but definitely as setting a direction that DD3+4 have to respond to which Netolic.SA can then choose to sort of respond to the response, and so on and so forth. So 2 standard picks, Keeper of the Light, Lone Druid heroes we definitely see often, and then the pick from the Tinker sort of upending expectations to some extent. Now DD3+4 fires back with the Queen of Pain. This is a pretty standard one. The Queen of Pain is one of the strongest mids right now, if not the strongest mid. Definitely a very, very strong option. And we also see the Magnus. Magnus, another pretty common mid right now. He is also played as the solo laner. Solo hard lane is a possibility for Magnus. We also do sometimes, very rarely, but just today or maybe yesterday, we did see Queen of Pain also being played as a potential solo safe lane hero. I'm not sure how much I like that. I think she's still very much a middle hero most of the time. And so definitely picking up DD3+4, picking up a mid and a possible solo hero in the form of probably the mid Queen of Pain and then the solo Magnus. Very strong picks, very standard picks coming out from DD3+4. Meanwhile, Netolic.SA picks up another hero that's not actually tremendously common. They take the Chen. Now, Chen frequently gets banned out in the second ban phase if he isn't picked up here and the other team doesn't want to face a jungler. So if you actually want the Chen, third pick is essentially an ideal time to pick him up. And so it makes sense that they did choose to take that Chen here. And so drafting him third, if you want him, is sort of a perfect time. And they do need to start picking up some supports, so this was an excellent time. We then again see some very, very standard bans. So the ban phase of this draft has been very, very unsurprising. So we do see Undying, Nyx Assassin, Shadow Demon, Phantom Lancer, Bat Rider, Darkseer, Lifestealer. None of these terrifically surprise us. We sort of expect to see these heroes banned out. And then in any sort of game, just because their power level is so high that it doesn't really matter whether the other team has a particular strategy oriented around using that hero. You just sort of don't want to see that hero as a general rule. Now, the Brewmaster is a little bit different. I think this is more of a personal ban, so maybe they feel, Netolic.SA feel that DD3+4 has are effective with the Brewmaster, or the Brewmaster goes against what sort of plan Netolic.SA is trying to run with, and we could sort of think about what that would be. The Brewmaster Ultimate does give you a very strong disabling power, so they can really they can lock down the Tinker if they so desire and kill him before he's really able to escape with something like the Blink. They can purge some buffs off, but in general, I'm not sure. If DD3+4 were to run the Brewmaster, they would probably have to, at this point, run him in the farm lane. So it is interesting that Netolic.SA feel that DD3+4 were likely to run a Brewmaster. This is an interesting carry option that teams rarely go for unless they have a very, very specified plan for him. Now, it would give them a lot of disable, and really, DD3+4 is a team that already, just by picking up the Magnus, has a decent amount of disable with them. So adding the Brewmaster on top of that gives them more disable, in addition to sort of anti-carry tools. If Netolic.SA is still going to rely upon picking up another primary form hero, another core hero with their 4th or 5th picks, Brewmaster is very good against certain carry heroes. So he's good against, for instance, Anti-Mage, just because he can really slow down the attack speed with two different, with his Q and his W abilities, his Drunken Haze and his Thunderclap. So if they are, for instance, running something like Tinker mid, Lone Druid solo hard lane, and then Chen in the jungle, another hard support, and something like an Anti-Mage, they definitely don't want to see that Brewmaster. Gyrocopter, on the other hand, very standard ban, while DD3+4 still takes out another side lane support option in the form of the Disruptor. So you see Disruptor and Shadow Demon both getting taken out here. I'm very interested to see what these teams actually pick up for their 4th and 5th picks, because again, these sort of periphery picks, these heroes that you fill your team out with, they can be anything. Teams can sort of rely on any sort of strategy to work if they so desire. And DD3+4 picks Axe, so right when I'm talking about the fact that, you know, a lot of heroes are viable right now, DD3+4 would take a hero that only became viable very, very recently. I mean, sorry, I should say that it only became viable in the sense that professional teams have only just barely started sort of scratching the surface of what an Axe can do for you. We've seen Maus run him to mixed success, and we've seen Navi run him to a little bit greater success than we've seen Maus. Axe can be run in the jungle, he can be run mid. In this case, he's very likely to actually be up in that jungle, and they take Anti-Mage for their 5th slot. Meanwhile, Netolic.SA actually picks up the Clockwork. What this signals is that most likely we're going to see this Clockwork in the hard lane solo, and we're going to see the Lone Druid as the safe lane farmer with some sort of support being added on as well. Clockwork can play a number of different roles. They do have the option of running something like a Tinker in the safe lane farm lane. That's a very, very, very old school style approach that we still see teams take, but very, very rarely. The last time I think I saw it was something in either a Southeast Asian tournament or maybe in a Chinese tournament where we saw the Tinker safe lane. But they could do Tinker safe lane. Clockwork has been run before as a mid. He's not going to be very good against Quap, but it's a possibility. And they take the Rubik. So no, I think it is going to be the Clockwork side lane solo. We've got the Rubik, Lone Druid, Chen, and the Tinker up in the middle. Meanwhile, DD3+4 look to be running something like an Axe in the jungle, Magnus solo lane, Queen of Pain mid, and then the Anti-Mage with Keeper of the Light support up in the safe lane. So, and it is definitely going to be the safe lane, unless... So Axe is an interesting hero, and they could run something much more non-traditional. If DD3+4 were wanting to be a little more venturesome, they could do something like put the Anti-Mage Keeper of the Light in an aggressive tri-lane. Keeper is a pretty good in an aggressive try, just because that Illuminate is so effective. If the other team decides to try to pick a fight with you, you really have amazing sustain in the form of the Chakra magic. And then they could do something like have the Axe sort of venture forth and pick off the creep waves. This will lead to an interesting game of chicken with this Lone Druid just because of the bear, but that's something that they could do. It basically depends on how aggressively DD3+4 want to sort of take the fight to NTL right from the beginning. Now, they don't necessarily have to. I mean, obviously, if they just play safe and this anti-mage gets lots of farm, that's definitely an option for them, and then they can play sort of safe and not have to do that. They can just run this Axe up in the jungle normally. But we'll sort of see what approach they actually take. It does look like they're going to play more conservatively, so they're going to run the Axe in the jungle. And so let's take a look at the teams. Let's introduce the heroes that are playing, the people that are playing each hero. We do have this Rubik played up by Demente on NTL. He's going to be up in the safe lane supporting. Then we have Peke Andy on the Chen, so he's going to be up in the jungle. We've got Haley Moore's G on the Tinker, up in the middle. We've got this Clockwork being played by, I can't see his name, Zero-kun. And then the safe lane farmer will be Tomorrow Exam on the Lone Druid. So that'll introduce Netolic South America playing on the Radiant. And then let's take a look at DD3+4 playing on the Dire. We've got Redhead on the Queen of Pain in the middle. We've got Magnus, played by Smook Beater on the hard lane solo. Then we've got Dex, Atate, and Pedonubido on the Anti-Mage, Keeper of the Light, and Axe respectively. Axe being up in the jungle, Keeper of the Light going into the safe lane support, and Anti-Mage being in the safe lane farming role. It looks like this team is actually going to be reconnecting. So we got the reconnect coming from DD3+4 on the Dire, and hopefully, I don't think they're going to remake. I think they're just reconnecting. I'm trying to take a look, making sure that the stream performance isn't too choppy. I'll turn on the graphic settings if I need to, but oops, sorry about that. While we're paused, I'm just going to take a quick pause myself to answer a cell phone call. Sorry about that. Alright, folks, sorry about that. I'm right in here. Just getting right back into here. Figuring out dinner plans, sorry about that. Alright, so let's talk about this game. Let's talk about the sort of strategic overview of this game. Now, DD3+4 have the hardest carry on the map. So you always want to sort of look at who wants this game to stretch out as long as possible. Now, it's more of a toss-up than it seems. So a lot of people will look at a hero like Anti-Mage and say, oh, well, you know, Anti-Mage, he's no fun, right? I've seen JPEGs of this guy. He's the guy who doesn't like fun. He's the guy who just farms and farms and farms, and nothing happens for a while, and then he says, I have finished farming, right? There's that famous JPEG of, I have finished farming, and then the game is over from that point on. So, in this case, NTL do have a plan for if the game goes long. They sort of have a twofold plan. Now, Lone Druid scales pretty well. He doesn't scale as well as Anti-Mage. No, like, there's really no doubt about that. People have made the argument that no Lone Druid is a very, very hard carry because he has 12 slots. He has 6 slots on his bear and 6 slots on his hero. Not what I'd call really true. There are technically 12 slots, but you can't effectively use those 12 slots. The bear starts out extremely tanky and ends up being somewhat vulnerable towards the end, and Lone Druid is really never comes into his own by himself as like a great hero, in terms of just pure dealing damage. So you really need both the hero and the bear to really be like one very farmed carry later on. You really can't consider them 2 carries that you could farm up, even if you do get the money to build some items on Lone Druid as well as building them on his bear. Just because, you know, you really can't guarantee the survival of both of them in a meaningful way. So, this Lone Druid, however, he will be a very strong pushing tower up into the mid-game and still will deal a lot of damage even late. People underestimate the late-game ability of Lone Druid to deal a lot of damage, but he really can deal a lot of damage, if necessary. So, they've got this Lone Druid, but more importantly, I want to talk about Tinker. We don't watch that many games with Tinkers these days, but Tinker could really be really great in a long game, because he's got that same extreme split pushing ability that you sometimes see Nature's Prophet deploy. He's got the ability to just push and push and push, and just keep every lane pushed in, and especially with something like Lone Druid, where the bear can, with the Druid, can spot that push down a tower extremely quickly. If they can bring down a farmed anti-mage later, they can convert that into a tier 3 tower advantage. They can convert that into a barracks advantage very quickly. And so, if this Tinker does get as far, if he gets a timely Boots of Travel, if he's really able to build up more and more items, he not only can become a pushing force that's very impressive, he also becomes a lockdown force, and this anti-mage will have to look out in the mid to late game for the Tinker just locking him down. You will definitely see, sometimes you don't see anti-mages building BKBs, not as his first item, but you will see anti-mage make BKB this game, mark my words, because Tinker in the late game will just be able to sheep anti-mage indefinitely in certain hours. He'll pick up that Scythe of Vice, he'll rearm it every time to bring the cooldown up, and the anti-mage will simply be a sheep for the entire duration that there will be interaction between the two teams during that fight. And so, for a team that's really wanting that anti-mage to get in there and be important in those fights, you know, DD3+4 really will have to make sure that anti-mage won't be locked down. And so BKB is going to be their tool for doing that. Because in that BKB, Tinker won't be able to blind the anti-mage with laser, he won't be able to lock him down with Scythe of Vice or other disabling abilities, and so they're really going to want that sooner or later. And so we would really expect that to happen. Oh, well, we're gonna have one pause, apparently. Hopefully just one. So, in a long game, we'd say that in a vacuum, DD3 are somewhat favored, but you'd be surprised just how much Tinker can do in a vacuum, in a long game. Because he's got the turtling ability. He can plant that March of the Machines, and you can see that this Tinker is actually going early March of the Machines. So what we're going to expect to see is some of these jungle camps are eventually going to get stacked for the Tinker, and he's going to come around and mop them up with March of the Machines. And that'll give him a big boost of juicy levels, and it'll also give him quite a bit of money, which will move him towards that Boots of Travel. It'll really let him get up in terms of farm, get up in terms of levels, and take control of the game much earlier. If Tinker gets a Boots of Travel, the timing of Boots of Travel is extremely consequential for Tinker. It's very important for him to get it in as quick of a fashion as possible. And the reason is that just the difference between a very early Tinker Boots of Travel and a not-so-timely Tinker Boots of Travel is enormous. The earlier he gets it, the more he can mess around, the more he can sort of do early ganking. If he doesn't do early ganking, then the Boots of Travel aren't quite as good. He can still do a lot of pushing, he can still get a lot of farm, because, you know, you can go anywhere, get farm anywhere. But really what you want with that Tinker is that early Boots of Travel so that he can sort of jump over like a sort of a pseudo-Nature's Prophet. Just jump to any lane and turn that lane into a kill or two right then and there when he comes there. So that's sort of what we expect from this. Oh, we actually have a disconnect. Well, that's kind of unfortunate that there's this much instability in this game, but we'll stick it out. We'll sort of take a look. So with this Tinker, we really are going to take a look at how well he does in the middle. So how much Queen of Pain is sort of able to retaliate against and how much damage she's able to do. Currently, we just see this Queen of Pain actually out of tangos. She just has her Sealing Salve. I think probably bottles being delivered to her. So this is a critical item for Queen of Pain in the middle, definitely. You really want to be able to cast your spells. You want to be able to deal damage. You want to be able to heal up if you, say, got caught in a March of the Machines for a little bit, and harass this Tinker. It's more important for Tinker to get his farm here than it's important for Queen of Pain to get her farm here. Queen of Pain, she scales quite well with items, like Aghanim Scepter is very good on her. Scythe of Ice is fantastic on her. But really, Queen of Pain early on, to get kills, all she really needs is levels. The more levels you get on Quap early, if you get that level 7 early, if you get the level 6 early for your ultimate, if you have the mana, if you get up to that level 4 Scream of Pain very, very quickly, so you can push it out of lane quickly and deal a lot of AoE damage if you move to a lane, get a couple more levels in Blink to give yourself more mobility, and then that level 2 or more Shadow Strike for the slow and the damage over time. You just really want levels. You want to amass them as much as possible. It's not quite as important that you get farm, although Queen of Pain is a pretty good recipient of farm. She's usually played as, a number 2, and that's where she'll be played in this game. So, it's important for Queen of Pain, but it is absolutely critical for Tinker, because again, the timing of the Boots of Travel is quite important for NTL. They're counting on that Tinker to get his Boots of Travel quickly. And the quicker he gets it, the quicker he can sort of be a factor in the other lanes, the quicker they can move this to where they want to. I said that they do have some play late, and they do. They have the turtling ability of Tinker, they have the split pushing ability of Tinker and Lone Druid, but I think NTL would rather win this game in sort of a mid-game fashion than they would a late-game fashion. And the Chen pick speaks to that. Chen is really a hero that is extremely effective at pushing early. When he gets a few ranks of Holy Persuasion, like when Chen's around 7, he's incredibly powerful relative to every other hero on the map. He has this global heal that's very, very consequential early, and less so, 50, 60 minutes into the game. He has a decent nuke in the form of his Test of Faith, but more importantly than all that, he has the ability to have 3 holy persuaded creeps under his control. So at levels 5 and 7, when Chen gets ranks 3 and 4 of Holy Persuasion, he's just so strong relative to the field because he brings these high-level jungle creeps into the battle with their abilities, with their pushing power. And so NTL bring quite a bit of pushing facility to the game. Nothing from Clockwork really, but Tinker, Lone Druid, Chen, this core is very, very able to push, and with the Tinker Boots of Travel is able to split push, because you can have Lone Druid with the Bear, with Chen creeps pushing down one tower, while Tinker clears out with March of the Machines the creeps around another, and really puts pressure on the lanes. Now, DD3+4, they have decent anti-push, like they're able to clear out lane waves coming into them pretty quickly. They have the Queen of Pain, Scream of Pain will do some of that work, and the Keeper of the Light Illuminate does a lot of work for actually being able to anti-push a lane. And not to mention actually Shockwave from Magnus, although he's level 1. One thing that we do want to take a look at that I haven't talked about yet is these offlaners. So, Magnus has lost some favor as a solo hard laner, because at rank 1, the skewer doesn't actually travel that far. So it's only about 600 units of distance. If Magnus starts here, and he skewers, he only goes about, so 600 is about half the screen. So he would go about to here. And so when you're facing something like a Rubik, he can just wait until you finish your skewer, then lift you here, and Lone Druid can still kill you, especially if the bear picks up Entangle, which it, does the bear have Entangle yet? No, but it will very, very soon. So, dangerous situation for this Magnus, and you can see he's only been able to get about half a level's worth of XP. Now, Clockwork, on the other hand, he is not the greatest of solo laners, but he does have a strong escape ability in the form of this Power Cogs. When this got increased to a duration of 5 at rank 1, it became an ability that's very, very useful for escaping. Because whenever you're in a lot of danger, you can just sort of Cogs and run away. Now, Keeper of the Light can still hit you through Cogs, so there's the danger that Keeper of the Light just kills you with an Illuminate, even though you're so-called safe. You think that you're safe in your Power Cogs, but you're actually not at all. You see a bit of Chen harassment on this Magnus, just taking away his clarity. He did use Skewer to get out there, so he does finally hit level 2, but he's being harassed quite a bit by this tornado. Now, taking a lot of damage, actually. Chen is diving past the tower. He's going to try to do Test of Faith to try to kill this Magnus. 46 HP, and with the Rubik managing to Fate Bolt on top of that, NTL picks up the first blood. They dive quite a bit past the tier 1 tower to get it, but a strong beginning for them. They've got parity farm with the Lone Druid. It's about 27 last hits, 7 denies. Real 29 now, right there where the anti-mage is, so both carries getting farm, but a tower kill for Lone Druid as well on top of that, so he manages to pick that additional gold up. That'll lift him up above. Oh, and I've actually missed a kill down here. DD3+4 immediately counteract the 1 kill advantage by getting a kill of their own. Now, I'm not sure if they can actually pick up the tower off of this, but they do manage to get a kill on the board for anti-mage, which is exactly what they sort of wanted to make sure that it keeps up with this Lone Druid. Lone Druid does, however, have a... He does, however, have not only the first blood, so that's the extra gold, but also the tower kill. So he's a bit ahead of anti-mage at this point, just in terms of gold amassed. But it's for Lone Druid, both of these heroes have one expensive item that they rush early that's very, very important for them. For Lone Druid, it's Radiance. For Anti-Mage, it's that Battle Fury. So both of them are going to really, really want those items, and they're going to try to get them as quickly as possible. Now, Lone Druid did actually go for the Phase Boost, which gives him a little more damage on the bear and a lot more harassability on the bear. So we can do quite a bit of harassment with this Magnus, which will be important for them. They really want to prevent this Magnus from hitting 6, whereas it's important to keep Clockwork from hitting his level 6, but not as consequential as it is to keep Magnus from hitting 6. Because when Magnus hits 6, he gets reverse polarity, and that's really just an earth-shaking spell. When Clockwork hits 6, all he gets is his hook, which, while very, very good, is not quite the earth-shattering ability that the Magnus reverse polarity is. The Queen of Pain just sending her illusions to scout out. Let's take a look at the matchup in the middle. We do have 31 last hits for the Queen of Pain to 26 for the Tinker, so I would say that's essentially a draw. And both heroes are really getting what they want. We haven't really seen this Queen of Pain do any sort of mobile ganking yet. She is planting down some wards for her team, which is very communitarian spirited of her. Queen of Pain is not a redhead, so this is somewhat of a misleading name. But one thing that we do see is that the vision for DD3+4 is really quite a bit better. So they do have a little bit of vision here of the jungle and overside of this rune. They've got vision in their lane here when the creeps are pushed back, just in case a gank squad sort of comes up the left, up the bottom, the top lane here. And we really don't have no vision coming out from NTL. So this Tinker definitely having to play quite careful to make sure that he doesn't get picked off while he's trying to build towards this Boots of Travel. Because early on, as Tinker, you're really you're such a sitting duck when you're amassing all this sort of gold. And Axe comes out of the jungle. Not quite, actually. This March of the Machines might be enough to pick him off. No, he escapes with about 58 health. But him and Queen of Pain both sort of forced to take a step back. The empty bottle here, they probably have to go all the way back. So not a successful gank at all. Axe uses a Smoke of Deceit, tries to come out of the jungle and actually pick up a kill on Tinker. But instead, Tinker with quick reaction time lands a laser, has the rank 4 March of the Machines, and just picks apart that Axe. This early rank 4 March just does so much damage in the tight area that you cast it in that it really does actually give Tinker more anti-gank capacity than having Heat-Seeking Missile would be. Because he can just plant March of the Machines in a carpet around him and threaten to kill 2 for the 1 that he loses. Clockwork actually coming to bottom, so it looks like they might continue this push. With this Chen, again, like I said, when he has these 2 creeps, and especially when he gets 3 creeps, he's just able to push like few other heroes can at this stage. So they're really taking advantage of that by also rotating the Clockwork down now that he's picked up the gas, and trying to just immediately take that and push some more with it. So Queen of Pain, meanwhile, rotating in from the bottom lane. Chen sees her, so they that was very, very awkward. They sort of awkwardly size each other up. Clockwork not level 6, so he can't hook into the stun, temporarily stun this Queen of Pain. And Tinker sort of getting free farm here. Queen of Pain actually forced to leave. The rest of the team didn't really feel like rotating over, it looks like. So, Lone Druid and Anti-Mage, you see, still having almost perfect farm parity. And if we take a look at the advantage, we'd probably see, yeah, a little bit of an advantage for the Radiant, just in terms of the fact that they managed to pick up a tower. Actually, the second tower kill is substantial for them, too. Magnus gets a little too close and gets picked off again. The big problem for DD3+4 right now is this Magnus is still not level 6. He's picked up 2 deaths. He's not doing horrible, but this bottom lane is now sort of, it's very bad for them. There's no protection for anybody farming here. You finally see NTL trying to secure some map control in the form of this wards. But really oh wow, they actually get a kill on Tinker. I'm really sorry for missing that. Queen of Pain uses her haste rune, dives in under the tower. Clockwork is right here, but he actually decides not to power cogs, which is interesting. Queen of Pain, she's going to get away probably without an issue, especially because of this history. I wonder if that cogs wouldn't have been effective for them there, but Clockwork just didn't react in time, didn't pop that cogs. So a death for Tinker, and so NTL definitely a setback, but they did manage to pick up the Boots of Travel just before the Tinker died, and that's really what they wanted. It's okay for your Tinker to die right after it makes Boots of Travel, but it's damn better than having the Tinker die before he finishes his Boots of Travel. And we have another pause. I'm going to take this opportunity to step away from the screen for just about 30 seconds. It looks like both Clockwork and I are back. Sorry, I forgot to get myself water. I forgot that, you know, talking non-stop for about an hour actually dehydrates you quite a bit, so I'm glad I managed to get that. And we're about to get started. So, 2 setbacks for these teams. Oh, never mind. Well, the main setback for these teams right now is the fact that this Clockwork doesn't seem to be able to stay online, which is problematic. But setbacks in terms of the strategic goals of the teams and how they're going to be fulfilled. I think at this point DD3+4 are suffering a few more setbacks. One is that this Magnus is still not 6. Clockwork isn't 6, but again, they don't. I think NTL don't mind for Clockwork not to be 6. They do need him for initiation, but they do not need that hook shot just to push. So it's okay for them to not have Clockwork be 6. It's not okay for them to have him offline, but as long as he's online, it's okay. DD3+4, to win a team fight, to win a team engagement, they really need reverse polarity to be online and to land. Before they sort of get this axe up to a state where he's very, very strong, and right now he really is. And he's level 6, which is good. He has Tranquil Boots, which is good, but that's all he has. So, until he sort of has a little more, this axe is not going to be tremendously effective. He doesn't even have his rank 4 Battle Hunger, although rank 4 Battle Hunger will actually be quite effective against heroes like mostly Chen, I would say, because Rubik can usually flash remove it by just Fade Bolting the nearest creep. But definitely that axe is... It's going to be important for that axe to get a few more items as well. If they want to do something like pseudo-initiate, with the axe using Berserker's Call and the Magnus following it up with reverse polarity, or vice versa, with the Magnus going in with reverse polarity, and then the axe sort of adding the pseudo-disable of the Berserker's Call on top of that afterwards, they're going to need this axe to have a little more than he does already. And they're going to want to build towards something like a Blink Dagger on the Magnus. First things first, obviously, he needs Tier 1 and then Tier 2 boots. But really, they need to develop this Magnus more to have a prayer in these group engagements. The good news for DD3+4 is this Anti-Mage is doing very, very well. So you see that he's got 2511 plus his Ring of Health. That should put him at about, very, very close actually, about 900 or 1000 off of his Battle Fury. So you can see that 4350, he's already built about 875 towards it, and then he has 2511, so about 3300 out of 4350. Yeah, a little more than 3/4 of the way there towards his Battle Fury. And at 9 minutes 33 seconds, that's wonderful. You're very happy to be that close to your Battle Fury this early in the game. So good news for DD3+4, this Anti-Mage will get farm, but it's not enough to have a farmed Anti-Mage if your Magnus is really underdeveloped, if your axe isn't really contributing all that much. And so they're going to want these other heroes to also be able to get some safe farm somewhere. And it's going to be hard to get that Magnus the farm that he needs when this entire bottom lane has been cleared out by the pushing power of NTL. Now he's going to get a little bit of a free opportunity here. He does finally take level 6. So this is a critical level for Magnus. He picks up that reverse polarity. We'll see if he actually is going to deploy it as NTL push this top lane, because this is sort of, you know, the first opportunity for him to really put that in. It looks like he'd rather sort of pick up his Tier 1 boots first before he sort of commits to something like that. But Anti-Mage's farm has for the moment ceased as this incursion occurs with the Wild Wing, excuse me, is coming in, and the Satyr Tormentor. There's a new set of names for all of these jungle creeps, I think mostly to protect against the copyright that Blizzard holds on the content of Warcraft 3, which is the original source of the Dota mod. A lot of sort of, I've heard casters say, like, I will not call these jungle creeps by their new jungle creep names. And I don't know, I don't think that's maybe the right attitude. Sooner or later, you're going to have to switch over, so it seems like sooner will be better. Axe actually gets caught out, and Clockwork with a good hook shot in, he takes a lot of damage. Axe gets brought down almost immediately there without really a response coming out. Let's watch out for this Queen of Pain, though. She is invisible, and she is going to look to try to pick up a kill here. This Rubik is taking a lot of damage. He does manage to shock the Battle Hunger off, but Queen of Pain might have a perfect opportunity here. Good Illuminate combo there. The Keeper's Light does get brought down by Lone Druid and Entangles. And Queen of Pain in a bit of trouble as well, but she does manage to blink away. The Entangle's not enough. If an Entangle lands now, she could still be in a lot of trouble. But she looks to be more or less safe. Queen of Pain gets away, no issues. Tinker using that constant rearm rockets to really, really harass right under this tower. So a trade of 2 for 1, I think, for the teams there. They do lose Rubik because Queen of Pain manages to pick him off from the back. But this Rubik has his level 6, he has his spell steal, that's most of what they want from him. Meanwhile, DD3+4, they lose a Keeper of the Light, which is not the most difficult thing to deal with in the world. But more importantly, they lose Axe. So Axe picks up a death, he still just has this Tranquil Boots. The jungle no longer completely safe for them to farm, as NTL have now taken out the top tower here, and it looks like they're going to continuously make excursions to sort of this area here. So these two jungle camps becoming just that bit less safe for DD3+4, just making that eventual Battle Fury for the anti-mage just a little tiny bit less valuable if he can't really safely always farm all of the jungle with it. You can see that NTL definitely already gearing up to make this jungle an issue. You can see this very, very, very aggressive ward here, giving them vision of these two creep camps here and the jungle paths to here and here. So NTL looking to play aggressive. They're looking to use their advantage early, use this high-level Chen to just really push. You can see he's level 8. If we look at the levels, the Chen is comparable to the highest level people on the map. Only Queen of Pain on Dire is higher than this Chen is. And he's right up there with the Lone Druid with the Tinker in terms of Radiant heroes. So impressive development for him, a full level ahead as well as the Axe. Does actually let his Saber Tormentors get picked off there, so that's not the greatest move. He actually loses all of his creeps, and so Queen of Pain throwing out a lot of damage onto this Chen. He goes down to 29 health, but excellent cogs from the Clockwork, and that's enough to actually get the Queen of Pain picked off, and that's a consequential death. They actually lose 2 with the Keeper of the Light as well, so the Lone Druid dealing a lot of damage, and they're right up under the tower again. I'm not sure that DD3+4 can actually defend this tower either. It looks like Tinker's just going to add a continuous amount of pressure. This Axe, again, is being completely zoned out. I'm not sure this is that excellent of a pick. With the fact that they didn't get any early ganks up on this Tinker, this Axe is really not able to get in close as he'd like to, because there's always a March of the Machines up, or even 2 March of the Machines that deal just an incredible amount of damage if you're Axe. Tinker actually porting any manages to deny a tower as well as kill Magnus once again. Magnus picking up his 3rd death of the game. He still doesn't have anywhere near his tier 2 boots. No issue for anti-mage, of course, but they don't get the tower kill. A tower is down, so that's definitely good for DD3+4, but they don't get the extra gold from having one of their players actually kill it, and it gets denied, further reducing the gold they get. Tinker already up to 2,500. He actually picks up a Blink Dagger right from there. That'll make him a lot more defensible when he does this blinking. He can do quite a bit of ganks at the moment just because Tinker is level 11. He has the level advantage where he can just blink it, deal a ton of damage, and get out very, very safely if he so desires. And not picking off the Chen there was not great for them either. This Chen already has his full mechanism. If they had picked him off, that would have delayed the mechanism by quite a bit, I think. But unfortunately, Queen of Pain just didn't quite get the damage in. And she was so extended to try to get the kill on that Chen that she managed to get picked off on the back foot of it by the Clockwork Cogs, which was very well placed. Props to the Clockwork player for that. And we actually see Tinker coming in back into the middle, jumping in on that bear. And NTL really just effectively using their plan right now. They're really getting in there. They're really able to just deal damage. They're able to push and make the entire map really, really unsafe for DD3. You can see that their vision paying off here. They really can see that this Axe is trying to get farm in the jungle and harass him as much as they desire. No success with the rockets there. Or they actually do get the rockets on him, so completely zoning him out. And a blink from the Rubik manages to kill the Axe right then and there. Rubik building out the Medallion of Courage, so this gives them even more mobile gank potential. He's going to hold on to this anti-mage blink for as long as possible. I do want to note, I didn't actually talk about the Rubik pick much, but Rubik, an absolutely inspired pick for NTL as a supporting DD3+4. You've got 2 heroes from whom he can steal a blink. Rubik is an extremely effective hero with blink because he has a great crowd control initiation that you can use to set up the rest of his team. It lets him escape from harm, it lets him get in and steal spells when you might not expect him to, and it lets him escape crowd control that would prevent him from stealing spells. Like for instance, if you have a Magnus who's skewering in, you can have your Rubiks blink away from it, so he misses the skewer, he misses the reverse polarity, and immediately steal it before the Magnus has a chance to cast any other spells. So the fact that DD3+4 have 2 blinkers in the form of the Anti-Mage and the Queen of Pain, and a big crowd control in the form of the Magnus, almost makes it an ideal situation for Rubik to consistently be able to get those crowd control spells that, like Reverse Polarity, like Berserker's Call, and also have the blinks for all those other times. So excellent choice, I think, here. Interesting that you actually see Chen, he's mind-controlled the Cobbled Task Foreman to actually, not Taskmaster, Cobbled Foreman to give his teams more movement speed than they able to get around. Now, they do actually get a pick-off, so not the greatest of initiations here. They do pop the Reverse Polarity. Not actually that great. All it gets is the Bear and Clockwork, so not an extremely successful Reverse Polarity there, but this fight is extremely chaotic. Anti-Mage in the back manages to pick off the Clockwork for good, but he manages to trades himself for it, and this Keeper of the Light is limping away with 5 hit points to his name. Both teams very damaged, but it looks like NTL are going to be able to pick off a tower on the back of this anyway. Tinker jumping in, dealing a lot of damage to Queen of Pain already. She is driven off. It's a 2-for-2 trade, but the additional kills that they picked up in this and all the towers mean that NTL is really taking a commanding advantage of this part of the game. If you look, this anti-mage is really nowhere near developed now, and that death was really important too. He does finish his Battle Fury, but he's not using it to farm right now. The Battle Fury is really there so you can farm your next items. It's not that the Battle Fury in and of itself is so amazing in teamfights. It's good, but you really want the next item. You really want that Manta style. You really want that BKB. And to do that, you need free time to farm the jungle. And that's exactly what NTL are going to look to not give DD3+4. But the Anti-Mage, about 6,000 net worth. We are going to see this start to eclipse the Lone Druid as we see the Anti-Mage amass more items. Do we actually have Radiance on the Lone Druid Bear is my question. We do have Radiance complete. So the Lone Druid actually going to be picking up farm pretty quickly as well. Very timely Radiance, 17 minutes. Pretty impressive Battle Fury timing as well. Again, both these teams very strong, able to get the farm that they need on all of their heroes. We have a Clockwork Hook. Clockwork has jumped in. He doesn't manage to land his cog successfully, but this axe is driven off, so much damage going out. Decent amount of AoE damage suffered by NTL here, but it does look like they're going to bring the Tinker back in. Rubik once again in a lot of danger. Doesn't even realize the danger that he's in, but this blinking Tinker is doing so much work. He's just able to blink right into the frame to stop heroes of DD3+4 at his leisure. And now with the addition of the Radiance, this is so much pressure on the under-leveled heroes of DD3+4. You can see there's very low net worth of some of these heroes. Rubik in a lot of trouble once again. He's really not going to be able to have much of a ganking presence if he keeps taking so much damage from his Queen of Pain. So this Medallion of Courage really going more or less unused right now because Rubik isn't living long enough and isn't able to get into the positions they would want to use it. But Tinker right now is just a holy terror. This blink was so effective, and with the Dagon he manages to get a pick off on the Queen of Pain, and that's very important. That's 44 seconds with no Queen of Pain. They at least can get a tier 2 tower off that. They might very well decide to actually push her back this early. It looks like they're going to peel back. They might do something like try to take Roshan off of this, but that's definitely huge. Queen of Pain on the sidelines for 30 seconds. She is the main damage dealer for DD3+4 right now. This Anti-Mage doesn't deal nearly as much damage as the AoE from that Queen of Pain is dealing. And so NTL really have not much to fear from this. DD3+4 know that NTL are going for the Roshan. They just can't do that much about it. This is when that Medallion really comes into play of lowering the armor of this Roshan. Clockwork with an amazing hook. They managed to spot out this Keeper of the Light and immediately bring him down. What a great hook from Clockwork here. And this Zero-kun really, even lagging, even disconnecting, he is landing those hook shots like a boss. He is really getting in there and just using those exactly traits that are making Clockwork a more and more popular hero in the current metagame. Clockwork, a hero that wasn't even an afterthought in the Western metagame. He started getting popular because he started getting used in the Chinese metagame. And now he's been transplanted, and now certain teams love him. You really see Clockwork being deployed a lot now by teams like Team Liquid, by teams like Virtus Pro, and as you can see by teams like Netolic South America, and really he does provide that great initiation. Clockwork is a fantastic 5-man Dodo hero, and 5-man Dodo is the name of the game right now. That is the style of Dodo that most teams are playing. You team up, and you just look to get team fights, you look to push, and you look to kill the enemy. And so in that situation, if you have some ranged damage, which with Tinker they most assuredly do with a Tinker with Dagon doubly so, your Clockwork can lock down one of the opponent's heroes, and you really just, they're at the mercy of your ranged damage dealers. This Dagon, by the way, just such a bold choice from this Tinker, but if you're ahead, the Dagon can really seal the deal on your opponent's team, because if their heroes are under-leveled relative to you, if you're really dominating the map, then you can just blow up the enemy heroes at your leisure very easily with this Dagon, especially if you level it up. He adds this Ghost Scepter. This, on the other hand, is a more conservative choice, but it saves him right there. So immediately after buying the Ghost Scepter, it already saves his life. Excellent pickup here for Tinker. This Anti-Mage and Axe and Queen of Pain were looking to bring him down, and they just couldn't with the auto attacks because he popped the Ghost Scepter just in time. So an excellent pickup for Tinker, absolutely. And NTL are looking to continue to pressure, so a lot of pressure being put on DD3+4 right now. They do pick up Blink Dagger on Axe, so that will give them additional initiation power. They're only about halfway to Blink on Magnus, and that's really the Blink Dagger that they want. Now, Blink on Axe or Magnus is useful in some respect. Axe actually jumps in, so he already does the taunt, but an immediate entangle, and Dagon is enough to bring him down. So Axe, that initiation is doing almost nothing. Now, Axe, if he Berserker's calls a few heroes, you can just jump in on that with the Magnus. You can skewer right in and reverse polarity with Axe basically doing the work for you. They do get a kill on a tower for anti-mage. But if the Axe dies before you can do absolutely anything with it, what essentially have you gained? Very, very little. Clockwork missing a hook, not able to get on the Magnus there. They really, really wanted that. But the Tinker jumping in and immediately takes down the Magnus. That is so huge. Does Magnus have buyback? They may actually have to expend this even though they really want the blink. Another hero goes down. Keeper of the Light is taken down. And this Tinker is completely taking over the game right now. Rubic, what did he actually steal? Spirit of Pain, so a little more AoE damage. It looks like it's going to be a Rax. Queen of Pain with anti-mage can do almost nothing about this. Magnus actually, we've got the Axe running in. He wants to land the Berserker's Call. They want to land something. They really need that reverse polarity. Bigger reverse polarity. They do hit 3 with it. The Magnus gets taken down. Huge mana void from anti-mage. So they managed to pick up 2. Do they pick up more? The anti-mage taking a lot of damage. He actually gets taken down by Radiance damage from the Lone Druid Bear. And this is awful for DD3. They do have a big reverse polarity. They do have a big mana void that takes down a hero within the reverse polarity afterwards. The Clockwork may die, but they're already losing Raxes. You do not want to be losing Raxes this early, even if you manage to get a couple of kills off of it. Tinker is back in. Tinker is completely taking over. Tinker is destroying heroes left, right, and center. This is a game where the Tinker, I said, early bits of travel is going to make this Tinker just so gankable. And this bold choice of the Dagon, which is now level 3, turned that gankable into gank mandatory. He's able to just absolutely be anywhere on the map, deal any amount of damage, and completely make it an untenable proposition for DD3+4 to do anything in these teamfights. They have a plan, they're trying to execute it, but their heroes pop in seconds. Their heroes aren't able to live long enough to even use their spells. Even when they did land their reverse polarity, the Tinker just left, came back, and picked off their heroes who were soft by sort of the end of that fight. They need to win a fight by such a dramatic margin at this point that it's just really not possible to expect them to actually be able to do that. This bear is so threatening right now. He actually doesn't have the resummon for it for another 17 seconds, but he does have Aegis. He will be able to continue pressuring this. They may well get another melee Rax here. I'm not sure they can do much about it. Just the anti-mage, look, he's just not farmed enough. He's not survivable. He's not anywhere near the BKB that would render him immune to Tinker's deadly charms here, the laser, the heat-seeking missile, the Dagon. And so DD3+4 are well on their way to getting completely taken apart here. They haven't GG'd out yet, but they've already lost 4 Raxes of their 6 at 23 minutes in. An extremely strong jump out of the gate by Netolic South America here. And this Tinker is continuing to just completely devastate them. The Axe tries to blink in on top of the Tinker, but excellent blink timing from the Tinker manages to succeed in that Berserker's Call. Maybe their only hope there was to manage to pick up that Tinker, put him on the sidelines for any amount of time. That Tinker needs to go, or there's nothing that DD3+4 can do. They're just going to keep losing heroes. Let's keep an eye out on this Tinker. Let's see what he does next. He's got the level 4 Dagon that's 700 burst damage. Oh my goodness, Keeper of the Light just getting completely instantly popped. I'm just gonna take the seat.
Dire's top tower has fallen.
One sec, folks. I'm gonna just.
Dire's top barracks are under attack.
Well, at any rate, regardless of whether this is a best of 3, best of 1, or a best of 3, this first game is definitely complete. We have this Tinker just completely taking over. He manages to get kills all over the map. He secures the win. He really makes it impossible for DD3+4 to actually get to the point at which they were able to execute a game plan. Just picking off heroes. He says, Ezlor, bye. A little bit of trash talk here with this Dagon 5. Just able to sort of pick off heroes at his pleasure. Notable, Ghost Scepter actually prevents you from being targeted by the fountain, so you could do what he did there, which was just sort of sit in fountain, and the other team not being able to do anything. And that'll be the end of the game, so NTL coming out with that very, 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 very strong mid-game push. Like I said, that mid-game push with the Tinker, who gets his boots of travel in a timely fashion from the Lone Druid, is difficult to deal with, especially if, you know, you didn't get those Magnus levels, you didn't get that Axe build up. Axe ending up non-effective picks there. Like I said, the periphery for picks is wide open, but you do want to make sure that the periphery pick that you've chosen for the occasion is one that's going to be effective. And in this case, we have to say that the Axe was not a tremendously effective pick. It didn't really bring them anything in these team engagements. Meanwhile, Tinker was an incredibly effective pick. They weren't able to get a kill on him early, and as soon as he picked up that Boots of Travel, he ended up like 19-1. I mean, look at this record. This is absolutely insane for a Tinker to get this many kills and this much dominance. And this Dagon really sealed the deal. Like, this is usually thought of as a joke item, but if you're ahead, it can give you just that additional notch of aheadness you need to just make sure that the other team will never scrape their way back into this game. From the point at which this Dagon hit level 2, Keeper of the Light was never going to survive. Magnus and Axe were never going to survive, and there was never going to be a situation in which they would actually be able to land their full combo in a way that would cause DD3+4 to take the upper hand in the game. They had one sort of window to do it, and they got the Magnus, they got the Anti-Mage to Mana Void on top of it, and it was good, but you saw that after that they were never even able to approach a combo of that magnitude because the Tinker was just absolutely too dominant and had taken over the game to a too great extent. So a very interesting game. I do think we're going to have a game 2, but I really have to confirm, so we'll be back in just a minute, hopefully.